Welcome to Italics, television for the Italian-American experience. I'm your host, Anthony Tamburri. On this episode of Italics, Dr. Joseph Sciorra will interview Claire Beckman, who is the producing artistic director and actress in A View from the Bridge, a 1950s-era set one-act play which revolves around an Italian-American family that lives near the bridge. A View from the Bridge premiered at New York's Coronet Theater, now the Eugene O'Neill Theater, in September 1955. Now it returned to Red Hook, the original setting of the play, in the Brave New World Repertory Theater production, which had its run at the Waterfront Museum Barge from September 12 to September 29. Next, we'll take you to the 40th anniversary celebration of the John D. Calandra Italian-American Institute. On Thursday, September 19th, more than 80 people gathered for dinner to celebrate 40 years of service, research, and outreach that the Calandra Institute continues to provide. Now let's join Dr. Sciorra and Claire Beckman.
Claire Beckman, welcome to Italics. It's a real joy to have you here.
Thank you.
I think as a way of starting, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and how you came to form the Brave New World Theater?
I was an actor for, I am an actor, and I was an actor for over 20 years in New York, in regional theater. I did quite a lot of TV and film, too. And I was tired of living out of my suitcase and had a small child and wanted to stay in the New York area. So my husband, who's also an actor and a director, he and I decided to form our own company. We'd recently moved to Brooklyn, and we'd noticed that with the exception of BAM and St. Anne's at the time in 2003, it was really difficult to get to the theater if you had a small kid. That was 1997 or so. So I said, that's crazy. You know, we're just across the river, but we can't get to the theater. There's so many really bright and interesting performers and artists right here where we live, not to mention a community that would love to go to the theater for less, and let's start our own company. So it just began with readings in living rooms, and then in 2005, I directed a site-specific production of To Kill a Mockingbird on 6 porches in the sidewalks of my street in Ditmas Park, Flatbush. We had just bought a house, and it was in very poor condition, so it looked shabby, which is what you need for Atticus Finch's house. And it was very well attended. Over 3,000 people showed up.
Can I ask you, how did you sell tickets for that?
It was free.
It was free, great.
It was free to the public, which made me very happy to be able to do that. I mean, I had written a grant, a very modest grant. Everybody donated their time, nobody was paid.
Right.
And we did it once. I worked with the kids for 9 months, every Sunday, for a couple of hours. They really showed the way. They helped the grown-up actors kind of figure out how to do this theater on 6 porches, because I had an idea in my mind to put the audience in the street, 750 chairs facing 4 houses with 2 houses behind them.
Wow.
And then I had alleyways cut into the audience. I had a path straight down the center of the audience and then diagonally for the kids and the characters to walk around and down. So my house, the Atticus Finch house, also then was transformed into the courtroom. The judge's desk was brought out, and you saw the neighbors in the Maycomb community leaving these Victorian homes in their 1935 costumes and weaving their way down the paths and into the courtroom, and the audience became the courtroom. And then in the very front row, I had neighbors, all male at the time, of course, playing the jurors. So they got the front row seats, and they got up and they sat down on my lawn in 12 chairs, and then the actors playing the community of Maycomb came and took those seats.
This is very much sort of like popular theater, how, you know, those kinds of puppet plays or sort of religious plays would be done in a number of places, like in Europe and in Latin America, where things are done in the piazza and the plazas of various
Theater for the
communities.
people, yeah.
What made you attracted to that kind of theatrical presentation?
I've always loved outdoor theater and free theater. As a kid, my mom, who's from Paris, took me to see a ballet performance. I think it was in the Luxembourg Gardens. I was young, I was 14, but it poured rain, and they thought they were going to have to cancel it, and they spent hours just mopping this stage. And they were worried about these dancers in toe shoes. They didn't know if it would be possible, so they improvised. They did it in bare feet. The audience wouldn't leave, and we were all huddled under umbrellas, and they ended this beautiful improvised dance with the whole crowd under one umbrella. And I was so captivated by it, by just the magic of using the environment,
Right.
the pouring rain, making do with it. Joe Papp inspired me. The theater for the people. And also, as a Brooklynite, wonder why it is that we have this idea that theater has to happen in the theater district of Manhattan. Why are we all, audience and artists alike, traveling to Manhattan as if that's the mecca of the arts? And I do love, obviously, we all respect the history of the arts in Manhattan, but spread the wealth around.
And these kind of enclosed spaces, these sanctified spaces, these almost sort of museum-like spaces, even though there's a live, live actors doing something that's different every night, there's still something almost sacrosanct about the sort of Manhattan theater.
Right.
And what's wonderful to have these more sort of popular, public kinds of presentations.
Especially since a borough like Brooklyn has so much history and beautiful architecture and fascinating venues like the Barge, where we did A View from the Bridge.
On the docks, talking about the docks, Arthur Miller's A View from the Bridge, and the space in which the actors were working and the audience was viewing them was on a barge. Tell us about the barge and tell us about this production.
It's a 105-year-old barge. It's the last of its kind. There were 5,500 of these barges, according to David Sharps, who's the director and captain of the barge. But with containerization, they became obsolete. And David found this barge, I think 1985. He bought it for $500. And he spent, I think, 10 years just cleaning it, getting the mud. There was tons of mud just in the hull. And then ultimately found a pier, a dock for it in Red Hook. And has been there for years and has been a big part of the transformation of Red Hook, because he's brought so many people down for his Circus Sundays performances, and it's an interpretive museum. And he has school groups, and he's a lovely man and has become a very dear friend to Brave New World Repertory Theater, and we've done several shows there. 10 years ago, we did a very elaborately staged reading of On the Waterfront. And actually, the reason we did that was because I couldn't get the rights to A View from the Bridge, which is the play I really wanted to do at the time in 2009. It was also the 400th anniversary of Henry Hudson's trip up the Hudson River. So we took this production to, we did it twice in Brooklyn, once in Manhattan and once in Hoboken, where that film was made. And that began my fascination with the docks and longshoremen and all of that. And of course, I saw that film.
All right, let's go to work. Where you guys going?
I read also Arthur Miller's autobiography, where I learned about The Hook, which is Miller's play that inspired On the Waterfront. That he was supposed to, it's a screenplay originally, that he was supposed to do with Elia Kazan, but instead Kazan did On the Waterfront because Miller decided he didn't want to play ball with Hollywood. They wanted his bad guys to be communists. They were not. They were mafioso, but they were not communists, and he had a problem with that. So instead, he took the research that he did, and he wrote a domestic drama about one longshoreman, which is brilliant because he knew he had this history that he had researched for The Hook, which is about corruption on the waterfront. Using that as a backdrop, he kind of zoomed in on this one man and what his relationships were like. So he called it A View from the Bridge because he lived up in the Heights, and it was his view from Brooklyn Heights, from the bridge, looking down into this working class community. they wouldn't talk to him, as you know.
Right.
Because I know you've interviewed James Longy, who was the inspiration for his lawyer, Alfieri, in A View from the Bridge.
And from what I understand, told him the kernel of this story
Correct.
originally.
Magic is that the Italian longshoremen were willing to stand up and fight, despite the fact that they had the worst kind of worker oppression, as far as I know, in the United States.
The lawyer explained to him that nobody would really talk to him down there because he was an intellectual Jew from the Heights.
Right.
And but they talked to Longy. He was the neighborhood lawyer.
Right. Originally, Miller was going to call, or how he was developing was called An Italian Tragedy. That was the original title for this. View from the Bridge is set in post-World War II working class Brooklyn docks. And as you, some of the elements deal with corruption on the docks. It was highly regulated by organized crime. People had to deal with the shape-up, in which they waited every single day to get handpicked for a job on a daily basis. And if they didn't play ball, they didn't get hired. And everything was controlled on the docks, from the local barber and the liquor shop and grocery store as well. I was looking at time beds and I saw that not only did Miller go down to the docks in Brooklyn, met Longy, but he also traveled to Italy with this extensive journey to Puglia and Mola di Bari, a town down there, and learned a lot about the connections between the Italian community in Italy and the Italian community in Brooklyn, because Longy was running for congressman.
Right.
And Miller got Tennessee Williams to donate $500 to Longy's campaign.
That's incredible. I didn't know.
Yeah. So why this fascination with View from the Bridge? And I mean, I understand that it was in the local setting in which it took place, the Brooklyn waterfront. But what is it about the play for you that you find so fascinating?
So 30 years ago, 1989, I was cast as Catherine, the young niece in A View from the Bridge. And the director was Alex Dmitriev. But I was living in Hell's Kitchen. I didn't know Brooklyn at all. And my now husband, then boyfriend, and I took a little pilgrimage down to Red Hook to do the research. And it was a ghost town. And the waterfront was off limits. It was all hidden behind rusty chain link. If it had been populated at one time down there with longshoremen, they'd moved up to Carroll Gardens, to the other side of the BQE, or Staten Island by then. Most of them by now have moved. But despite the sort of desolate landscape, I was still intrigued by the warehouses and the proximity to the Statue of Liberty and just the sky, the openness of it, and there was something haunting. You could feel the ghosts. There was something in the air. And I thought to myself, if only we could do it here. So fast forward 30 years, I reapplied for those rights and got them. While waiting to get the rights, I heard from David Sharps that a man from the UK had been visiting the barge and had mentioned a play by Miller that he designed a set for, and he said, oh, this would be a wonderful, he had that same reaction. And David Sharps, the captain, said, A View from the Bridge? And he said, no, another play based on a screenplay called The Hook.
Right.
We got the rights to A View from the Bridge. We did it in the spring of 2018 on the barge. And meanwhile, we decided to also do a reading, a staged reading of The Hook. In the meanwhile, that barge that David Sharps found in 1985, which was 4 years before I was cast as Catherine, has developed into this magnificent interpretive museum and maritime historical site. Fairway is there, IKEA is there, and Sonny's Bar, which is historic, and people come from all over Brooklyn to shop. It's a different place, and it's hopping now. We sold out that first 10 performances of A View from the Bridge in a couple of weeks, and decided after the plans for The Hook were underway to do it again.
So let's talk a little bit about the hook. The Calandra Institute hosted the symposium in 2001, and it was in tribute to Pete Panto. And Pete Panto is a character in the hook, or a
Marty Ferrara, it's based on him.
Based on Pete Panto.
Yeah.
And as Arthur Miller talks about in Time Bends, he was walking around the docks of Brooklyn and he saw on the walls, chalked on the walls, Dove Pete Panto? Where is Pete Panto? Because Pete Panto was a labor activist, led a wildcat strike against the Longshoremen's Union, which was mob controlled by Albert Anastasia. And he was killed because of his labor activism.
Correct.
And the play was in part to talk about that corruption. But for a long time, Pete Panto had been forgotten. It was, as I blogged about, it's not where is Pete Panto, but who was Pete Panto? I had reached out to Arthur Miller when he was alive for the symposium to get access to the hook, and he refused to just even, to do anything with it. It was so exciting when I found out that you and the repertory company was, in fact, staging the hook.
Yeah, it would never have happened were it not for David Sharp's having met this designer, whose name is Patrick Connellan, who was able to get the screenplay from the archives. This was happening in Northampton, in England. I think he also felt that somehow bringing it home to Red Hook specifically, I think even more than to Broadway or something, would be really valuable. Mm-hmm. And I think the Miller estate agrees. And I wish that Arthur Miller was alive to see it.
Right.
We presented this very elaborately staged reading in June, mostly to figure out how to do it. I directed it. I wanted everybody to enter the barge from the pier with the longshoremen. And that first scene happened on the pier when the pier boss picks, who's going to work that day. And it's a set crew. It's the same. And there are all of these starving longshoremen. And they go in the morning, starting at 7 a.m., 6 a.m., they go from pier to pier to pier to pier until they get work, hoping somebody will pick them up. It's extraordinary how long this shape-up system was allowed to continue, because it was really awful.
Yeah.
And many of these men would go home without a job that day, but had spent most of their morning
waiting,
standing in line, hat in hand.
So one of the other conditions, going back to the view from the bridge, was this whole idea of undocumented immigration. In the post-World War II era, and up until the change of the immigration law in 1965, Italian immigrants were often undocumented and were trying to sneak into this country. And so the character of Rodolfo is, in fact, and his brother Marco are
submarines.
They're submarines. They're snuck into the country. And that figures significantly in the play.
It's the main event,
yeah,
because they are my character's cousins, and Beatrice is very concerned how her husband Eddie is going to take it, that there won't be as much room in the house. They're going to sleep on the floor in the dining room, and but this is what you do for family. And then, of course, Eddie has some sort of inappropriate, let's say, feelings for his niece, my sister's daughter, who we've raised. As she's becoming a beautiful young woman, he just can't let go. He is a little obsessed with her. And when she falls in love with Rodolfo, the sparks fly.
Yeah, yeah.
And he wrote it as a Greek tragedy, as opposed to a classic European play with a beginning, middle, denouement, and end. This really is like a steam engine that just hurtles towards this climactic, tragic ending, crash.
Yeah.
The most important aspect of this production for us right now is the timeliness of this tragedy for immigrants who are undocumented and who are deported, and the proximity of the beautiful Statue of Liberty as a reminder to all the audience as they leave the barge of what our country is supposed to be standing for.
Thank you.
Thank you.
am delighted to be here tonight. For 40 years, the Institute has carried an important legacy for the City University of New York and the Italian-American community of this city and country. The Calandra Institute is one of a kind within CUNY and the world. Through efforts to promote and preserve all things Italian-American in higher education, the Institute is a premier hub of scholarship, cultural and artistic appreciation, and community interaction. From the Italian Language Resource Laboratory and the Italian Diaspora Studies Summer and Seminar to intellectually rigorous symposia for interdisciplinary scholars to gatherings that showcase Italy's most treasured traditions, the Calandra Institute celebrates every facet of Italian identity, and its ripple effects, stretching across time and history and geography, are of great note to this City University of New York. Additionally, the Institute takes an active interest in supporting the matriculation of Italian-American students at CUNY, helping to enrich our university population and extend the reach of our services and impact. Today, Italian identity touches countless corners of the city and contributes to its vibrancy at every turn. Our understanding of these layers simply would not exist without the Calandra Institute.
I am certainly delighted to have the opportunity to extend to Anthony and all his staff the warmest congratulations and thank you for 40 years of the Calandra Institute. We really cherish the special relationship between Queen College and the Calandra Institute. I'm technically a 2.5 to 3rd generation Italian American whose great-grandparents came from Sorrento and Amalfi, the Amalfitane, about 120 years ago. But of course, my relatives, just as an example, were part of the massive population shift that would have lasting impact on both their country of origin, on Italy, and on the United States. We know so much better now of our heritage and our contributions today, in large part because of work, interdisciplinary work, like the Calandra Institute and what they are doing by analyzing the experiences of Italian immigrants and their descendants and how they created their lives on this side of the Atlantic. Calandra in particular documents the unique culture that has resulted from the intersection of the old world and the new. So Anthony, may the next 40 years, or 100 years, Chandan, be even more productive, more creative, and more successful for the Calandra Institute, because you have certainly made CUNY and the city a much better place. Thank you.
Really, believe me, for me, as a Consul General, as you said, in New York, in the tri-state area, it's a privilege to have in my jurisdiction the Calandra Institute. So I think that you have done such a terrific job also helping Italians to understand better who we are, because you know, we from a very heavily migrating country, we have transformed into an immigration country, and all these kind of studies are very interesting, very important for us to understand better how can we deal with these issues. And I want also to focus to highlight the importance of the fact that how much you are inserted in the New York reality, in the CUNY system. And for us, you know, it's very important because we are not jealous about the fact that Italian Americans are very Americans. It's the strength of our community. We can enjoy such a wonderful relation of partnership, of friendship between Italy and the US because of this community, because of how much is rooted in New York City, in the tri-state area, our fantastic Italian-American community. I know this is just the beginning, and I want to also praise you and thank you for what you will do at the Calandra Institute for the Italian institution, for the Italians, for the Italian-American of New York. Viva il Calandra Institute, viva l'Italia e viva New York. Grazie.
None of this could be done without the work of the staff of the John D. Calandra Italian-American Institute. These are the people that make us who we are and that make us what I like to call the #1 prime institute for Italian diaspora studies anywhere. we can say that. Since I've been here, we've had excellent relationships with two other academic centers. One being the Center for Italian Studies at Stony Brook, and unfortunately, we lost unexpectedly its director last week. He passed away unexpectedly, Mario Mignone, who had just done yeoman's work to bring that center to where it is. And the other institution with which we've had great relationships is the Casa Italiana of NYU, the only graduate program right now in the United States that has structurally integrated into its curriculum Italian American studies. And so hopefully we'll be able to say that soon about CUNY. And we're here because of what numerous people have done in the past. These include the likes of the late Senator John D. Calandra, the then Secretary of State of New York, who was then also the future Governor, Mario Cuomo, the many Italian American state legislators then and now. Without the initial efforts of the New York State Conference of Italian American Legislators and their continued support over the years, there would be no John D. Calandra Italian American Institute. They have secured our independently based funding, and for them we need to be immensely grateful. Also, I want to recognize that the Institute has had as many as 6 previous directors, each of whom did his part in contributing to the Institute's well-being. So my hope is that I am only 7th of many more to come of this Institute, and that it will continue to grow and continue to build on the work that we have done. While we have done much, we have done great things as an Italian American population in this country, there is much more that we need to do at the level of entering into the discourse, the national discourse on ethnicity. We still have that to do, and the way to do it, in my opinion, and in the opinion of many of us, is through high school and college curricula. Thanks for watching this episode of Italics. I'm Anthony Tamburri. Arrivederci alla prossima puntata.